Storm.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the first official episode of Off Ball Takes. I'm your host, Yarby Laws, and this is
Christopher Wells.
We're a basketball podcast that focuses on players, teams, and news around the league throughout the season. Before we start with this week's episode, we want to shout out and continue to pray for Damar Hamlin and his family and the entire Buffalo Bills organization.
Absolutely.
If you don't know what's going on, essentially, Damar Hamlin went into cardiac arrest after taking a pretty routine hit. Like, it was a hit that, you see very often in football, like nothing out of the ordinary. But essentially, he went down, and it took paramedics 9 minutes of CPR for him to be in any sort of state to be transported to the closest hospital. The good news is he's awake. He's still on a ventilator and communicating through writing. But I think it's a very scary reminder that, like, the sports that, everyone covers and talks about, enjoys to watch, they're very dangerous. And, we just have to cherish life. And it's a reminder that these people are human beings. So
absolutely, they're more than just stats.
Yeah, exactly. But here at the Off Ball Takes family, we're keeping Hamlin in our prayers.
For sure.
Yeah. So.
To kick it off for this Friday's episode of Off Ball Takes, so as everybody's already seen for the last several weeks, scoring this season has been insane. I mean, of course, we saw Luka Doncic drop 60 points against the Knicks, but that hasn't even been the greatest performance. So first, we kind of are trying to get into the discussion of why is the scoring so good? I guess I would just say it feels like with the philosophy's changing, with the spacing, focus on perimeter shooting, guys being so much more skilled. And then you combine that with the rule changes with the defense and everything else. It just feels like guys can just get whatever they want. These guys are so good at what they do. I mean, you see dudes pulling up from 30 feet on a regular basis. It's just insane.
Yeah. I can't tell if these guys are getting better on offense or if people are getting significantly worse on defense. And when I say people, I mean teams in general, because basketball is a team sport. So it's personally, I feel like we're seeing all kinds of different players come into the league that are pretty much unguardable. You've got Giannis's, who's going to stop Giannis?
Right.
On a consistent basis,
I feel like what's even crazier is the fact that you got guys that are coming in, they're 19, 20 years old, and they're dropping 30 points easily every night. I mean, if you go back 30, 40 years ago, I mean, usually most guys coming in the league were not 19, 20. They usually were 21. But now these guys are coming in with a couple extra years that they can play, and they're already so skilled. I mean, it's just, all these performances we got that we're talking about. I mean, we can start off with Donovan Mitchell dropping 71 against the Chicago Bulls.
It's ridiculous, bro.
I mean, 71 points, 34 shots, only the 8th time that's happened in NBA history. I mean, of course, you got Wilt's 100, Kobe's 81, and then, of course, in the modern era, you got Booker, who dropped 70. But, I mean, this was just insane, unexpected. I mean, 22 out of 34 from the field. I mean, he, right at the end of the fourth quarter, put back his own missed free throw to tie the game and send it into OT, scored 13 in overtime, didn't miss a shot. It was funny because the 2-minute report basically was saying that, hey, he actually committed a lane violation. He shouldn't have been able to get 70 points. But I'm this is one of the few times where I'm I'm glad they got this call wrong, because it would have sucked if he had only scored 58. I guess if you want to say that 58's bad.
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell's been pretty consistent throughout his career. He's personally one of my favorite players. I even have his shoes. I've been seeing on Bleacher Report, they've been posting the Shaq clip of him saying you're one of my favorite players, but you don't have what it takes to take it to the next level.
Right.
Well, he clearly took that personally and scored freaking 71 points.
Yeah. I mean, he's even better than I thought. I mean, I already thought he was really good too, but I thought he had a little bit more of a ceiling on him. But I mean, he's been playing like a superstar this season. Yeah. I mean, he's the main guy behind Cleveland being as good as they've been this season. I mean, he's been worth every penny and then some for what they gave up for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, we're gonna get into some of these rumors later, but like, I mean, the Knicks, they look really bad for not doing everything they can to get Donovan Mitchell, and then I mean, they may have to settle for some other guys, of course, as we're gonna get into them over the course of this episode.
And they could have drafted Mitchell.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
I mean, just what a miss.
But I'm happy for him, getting out of Utah. To be honest, yeah. So good for him. So round of applause for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you were saying, like the scoring's been crazy. So I guess moving on to KD, like he had 44 the other night, 5 rebounds, 4 assists.
Insane.
Yeah, 64% from the field, 50 from the 3, which is crazy. But the craziest part is they lost 112 to 121 to Chicago. Yeah. So, but like the Nets have looked pretty good recently. Like they were building some pretty insane momentum up until that Chicago game because they were on a 12-game win streak. So that's been snapped.
They look like a completely different team from where they were earlier in the season.
Exactly. Like, and as you just said, like a completely different team. And I think like a big factor to that is like Jacques Vaughn finding his footing as a coach. Like, because in the beginning of the season, I was like, wow, I don't even think they might not make playoffs, bro. Like that's how bad they look.
Absolutely.
And then, all the drama, Kyrie, Simmons not being 100%.
Yeah.
But hats off to KD for the 44. And you already know that's but that's my favorite player. So it's all the viewers. That's my guy. So
absolutely. So credit to Brooklyn for being able to turn this around. Credit to the coach, credit to the players.
Exactly. They look great.
Yeah.
So moving on to Giannis, he had I think it was a career high of 55 points. He had 10 rebounds to go along with that, 7 assists, 60% shooting from the field. I don't think he didn't attempt the 3. He might have, but I don't think he made one. But it was against my Wizards. So again, viewers, my favorite team is the Wizards. Could be a good thing or bad thing depending on how you look at it. But Giannis is literally a freak of nature, living up to his nickname. And he's definitely solidifying, his case for MVP because his season averages are like 32 and 12, 5 assists. Sure. Yeah, 53% on the field. So he looks really good, just a bunch of paint mashing because nobody can stop him. I mean, his mid-range looks good too. I can't even lie. I think he shot 96% from the free throw line that game too. So props to him for working on that.
Yeah. And then of course we have some other performances. Of course, got to mention Klay Thompson's 54 against Atlanta. I mean, starting to put together some more performances where he looks more like his old self because earlier in the season, he was so inconsistent. He'd have a game where he'd score 30 and then he'd have another game where he'd be like 2 for 19.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can kind of get back on track. I think everybody loves Klay Thompson. So it felt so bizarre just to see how he was playing earlier in the season. And Golden State as a team in general is kind of turning around.
To see players like, slump.
Yeah.
And fall off. But
yeah. And then, of course, you also got to mention LeBron's back-to-back 40-point performances at age 38. Only other guy to do that, I think, is Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, and they need every bit of help they can get for those from those points because, I mean, that team doesn't really have a whole lot of talent, although the other night they were able to take out the Heat without LeBron and AD. But, I can't think of too many other times it's going to happen, but still, you got to give credit to these guys for putting up these big performances because it's been crazy.
Yeah. Like you said, this season has been crazy in terms of scoring.
I mean, I've enjoyed seeing this season so far, just from everything that we've seen from how the offseason went with all the trade requests and all the crazy moves that we saw in the offseason to now. I mean, it's been so much fun.
And it's like, I feel like the NBA is like, we're literally watching a shift in, I don't want to say the meta, but like basically how people play the game,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And look at the prospects coming in. Like, I don't want to jump the gun, but Wembanyama, I think that's how you say his name. Like,
yes.
What the heck is that, dude? He's like
7'4",
7'4", but has
step back threes, catch threes from the logo. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What are we doing, man? It's ridiculous.
And there's other guys in that draft, Scoot Henderson. I mean,
yeah,
it's ridiculous. I mean, how good these guys are. I mean,
so skilled.
And like you said with the NBA, I mean, it's definitely changing. I mean, also we're starting to see so much more parity, which we can kind of see in the standings. I mean, when you look at the standings, I mean, the Celtics and Bucks, it looked like they were running away with it at the start. But now, I mean, from 1 to 5, the teams are only like a couple games apart. I mean, you got Celtics and Bucks, and then the Nets, of course, that have went on their huge run. You got Cleveland and even Philly. I mean, all these teams just playing well at the same time. They're all so close to each other. It's crazy. And even in the Western Conference, it's like that too. I mean, Denver, New Orleans, I mean, Memphis, they're all basically within a game of each other, and even all the way down to like 12 and 13. They're only like 6-7 games away. I mean, just you have so many teams that are way better than we even thought. I mean, teams like Indiana, I mean, teams like Oklahoma City. I mean, these are teams that we thought were going to stink. I mean, be awful. And I mean, they've been way better than I thought.
Yeah. Credit to all the coaching staff, players, all their hard work, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we should get into some of these rumors.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the first ones we got here is Charlotte. Apparently, they've denied having talks with Miles Bridges. I mean, they kind of mentioned late last year, I mean, in the last couple of weeks about how Bridges and then they were starting to negotiate. I don't know. It's a tenuous thing kind of going on. It almost smells like maybe a Brooklyn type situation with what happened with Udoka, where it was reported they were going to hire him, and then you had all the negative pushback, and then he ended up not getting hired. It's kind of hard to read, and with a team like Charlotte, you never really know what they're going to do. So it's just such a strange situation going on there. I mean, I guess he would make them better, but at the same time, I am curious if they were to bring him back, what the pushback would be. I know that he's going to have a suspension waiting for him if he comes back, but it's just so strange just that this is still going on.
Yeah, it's touchy. I mean, understandably so.
Right.
You know, I feel like they would be better with him, but you know, they're going to do what they think is right. And you know, we're on the outside, so we only know but so much. You know, there could be a multitude of things going on the inside that we don't even know about.
Yeah, and I would imagine that everybody's talking to each other, trying to figure stuff out, trying to get answers. So we'll just have to see where that goes. I don't know. I'm really curious to see where that goes because, I mean, you know, before when he was on the team last year, I mean, even though they didn't have a great record, they were fun to watch. But I mean, they've been a shell of themselves this year. They've looked awful.
Moving on in the rumor mill, I think last week, 2 weeks ago, Wizards were thinking about moving Porzingis and Kuzma, but that's completely circled back to DC.
Right.
Apparently, per Michael Scotto, they want to keep both and, you know, build around Beal. Porzingis has been really, really good for us, the Wizards.
I mean, he was player of the week, I think, last week.
Yeah, I mean, and he's played 35 out of the 39 games. And,
this has definitely been a bounce back season.
Yeah, so like coming from a guy who hasn't been very healthy his entire career, I mean, I understand keeping Porzingis. I love it. And, you know, when it comes to Kuzma, I feel like it's a dangerous game for us when it comes to Kuz because, you know, we're running the risk of him leaving and we don't get anything, you know, because the most he can sign for is, I think, 15 mil. So,
with an extension.
Yeah. So, like, it's a sticky situation, but, like, you know, 15 mil, he deserves more than that. So I understand him, you know, wanting to test the market. They've said that they have no plans on moving either of them. So, and, you know, I think the main thing the Wizards are missing is a point guard. Monte Morris is okay, but, and DeLon Wright's really good on defense, but we just need somebody who can control the pace a little bit better, you know.
Get Westbrook.
Guys. No, I think he's fine in LA, 6th man of the year. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Moving on. Phoenix Suns, they're a team that's really been struggling as of late. They're currently 8th in the Western Conference. Of course, we know what had been going on with Jay Crowder, where he's just not played at all. Wanted a new contract with other stipulations like starting. And of course, you know, he's not getting that. So he just sat out. They've been trying to trade him. I mean, reportedly, according to Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports, they apparently want a playoff caliber player for Jay Crowder. I mean, no kidding. It makes sense. They're a team that's trying to compete in the playoffs and win.
Exactly.
But I don't know how much you're going to really get back from him. I mean, I think he makes around 10 million. So, I mean, you could potentially get somebody back from, but I don't know how many teams would want him and then give back a player like that in return. Because I mean, if you're talking about a lot of the top teams, they're not going to try to trade for Jay Crowder because they have guys that they probably are good with.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, it's just like we're just kind of starting to enter the trade season. So right now, we don't even know who's looking to move guys.
Exactly.
We'll see as things go on. But for now, I don't know necessarily if whoever they get, they'll be super satisfied with.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they may end up having to kind of settle. I mean, right now, I think teams are kind of setting their prices high, but they'll have to go down because, I mean, I just can't imagine a team giving up a ton to try to get Jay Crowder.
Do you think they might do a 3-team trade or, multi-team trade or something like that?
Yeah, I think that could definitely be something. I mean, earlier in the season, it was reported that that was potentially going to happen. It never did, but I definitely think that could make a lot of sense because, again, like a team that is working with Phoenix, I mean, again, if it's a 1-for-1 swap, I mean, I would, if I'm a playoff team, I'm probably good with what I have.
Yeah.
But like if I'm, one of those teams at the bottom, maybe they might have somebody. But again, a lot of those teams, I mean, there's not a ton of teams that have those type of players. I mean, I think they mentioned Eric Gordon at different points, but I mean, again, I guess Eric Gordon you could look at as an upgrade for Crowder from a guard standpoint. But again, like, I mean, I feel like Houston, if they're going to move Gordon, they probably would like a little bit more back than just Jay Crowder. They probably want a pick.
Yeah.
And if I'm Phoenix, I don't know if I want to do that, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that's hurting that scenario is just the fact that he hasn't played. Like,
yeah, he's hurting his reputation and image kind of a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like, what can you really give up for him?
Yeah, because I don't understand why you wouldn't just play. I mean, that's a way you can help your value. I mean, if you show that you can play and contribute and be a good teammate, I mean, you'll have a better chance. But we'll have to see.
Like, imagine if he had a career season. I'm not saying he would have. I'm just saying, like, imagine.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I mean, that would have boosted his trade value. Then you can go wherever you want. Well,
For
not
sure.
wherever you want, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe he ends up being a buyout candidate, but I feel like that's probably a last resort if they can't move him at all, or maybe they just try to convince him to come back. I don't know. We'll have to see how this unfolds. But it is interesting because Phoenix is definitely a team where I thought they were going to be a little bit better. I mean, I know after what happened in last year's playoffs, I mean, I know, they kind of got clowned and a lot of people thought that they were going to fall off. I mean, I thought they'd still be good, but probably be a little bit worse, but they are 8th in the Western Conference. But then you got the reigning champs, Golden State, who are 9th. So, I mean, it's been that kind of a season.
They've been hit with some injuries though.
Yeah.
I'll I'll cut them some slack,
Yeah, for
Chris
sure.
Paul too.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. That's definitely a disappointing team this year. I thought they were going to be a lot better than that.
Another interesting rumor, Matt Moore of Action Network reports Miles Turner could still be traded before February 9th if both sides can't agree to an extension. Of course, about a month ago, Shams Charania mentioned that Turner and the Pacers were talking about an extension. And of course, now you got potential situation where maybe they can't agree on something. And this does make sense if you can't agree on an extension to move him because you don't want to just lose him for nothing.
Exactly.
Obviously, we've heard teams like the Lakers, the Clippers that have been interested in him. But, I mean, he's having a career year, so I'm kind of surprised that we're not hearing even more teams trade for him because I think there's a lot of teams that could really use him. I mean, I guess, like, you could also look at it from the perspective of if he wants an extension, how much does he want? How much are we willing to give him? Makes about 18, I think, or so million right now. So you're kind of expecting him to make more. So, I mean, it's like, I guess for some teams, do you really want to pay over $20 million for him? I mean, personally, like I would do it if I had that kind of player, but I mean, I could see a lot of teams maybe not wanting to do that, but I don't know because he's having a really good season. But then the other thing is Indiana's been a good team. So I'm kind of curious, whether or not they actually do agree to an extension. Because, I mean, he's played really well. They've been really good, much better than expected. Like we mentioned earlier, that was one of the teams that I think a lot of people thought were going to be really bad in discussions for the lottery. But they've been way better. So I'm kind of surprised that we haven't heard as much about teams trading for him, given the year he's had.
Yeah, he's been really good, and he's a completely well-rounded rim protector. Like he's always been good at defense. Like,
I mean, his rebounding's up because that was kind of one of the main knocks on him. It was just that he was always kind of like a lower number rebounder. I mean, I guess playing next to Sabonis doesn't help. Not to take
Very
anything
true.
away from Sabonis, but just when you have those two bigs in there,
Yeah,
and Sabonis is also like more of an interior guy. I mean, it makes sense that his rebounding wouldn't be as high, but
exactly.
now that he's full-time center, I mean, it looks like he's taking advantage.
Yeah. Shout out to the Pacers though. They've been on a tear.
Yeah, I mean, you got Tyrese Halliburton. I
Hmm.
mean, Buddy Hield, Benedict Mathurin. I
Yeah,
mean, who's had an insane year as a rookie. I mean,
it's insane.
it's really amazing to see.
Yeah, he's
Like
been
we
on a
mentioned,
tear.
all these young guys playing so well.
Yeah.
Kind of using Tyrese Halliburton as sort of a springboard. Now we can start talking about today the All-Star voting. The first fan returns
Oh
came
joy.
out. Yeah, so of course, you got the early leaders for the captains. Of course, you got LeBron in the East, KD in the West. I mean, we always kind of look at the fan vote sort of like as a popularity contest, and you
Yep.
can still kind of see that. I mean, you can
Bunch of
look at the guys
trolls.
up there. You said what?
Bunch of trolls.
Yeah, I mean, you can see guys that I mean, it makes sense that Durant and LeBron are all the way up there, but then you look at some of the rest of this list, and just some of the names here are just kind of interesting. I mean, you look at Kevon Looney, that's on the list, Austin Reeves, Jordan Poole.
Hmm.
I mean, even Derrick Rose. I mean, again, no disrespect to these guys, 'cause these guys are good, Nick
Yeah.
Claxton included, but I don't know, they don't feel like guys that should be getting hundreds of thousands of all-star votes. I just don't think they're those calibers of players, but this
Yeah.
is what we always see with the fan votes. But in fairness, they are only 50%. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're only 50% of the total vote, so it'll change, but it's just always kind of fun to see. I mean, and of course, we can talk about some of the surprises on the list. I mean, for me, Darius Garland being towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference guards votes just seems kind of surprising to me. I mean, Derrick Rose getting more votes than him. I mean, again, not to disrespect to take anything away from Derrick Rose. I mean, he's had a great career, but I mean, still, Darius Garland has had a great season. Montes Sabonis, I mean, he's not even on this front court list at all. I mean, again, we know why. I mean, of course, you talk about the markets and the fan bases. I mean, we know how this goes. It's just kind of always interesting to see. I mean, we can even mention I don't know, just seeing guys like Reeves and Claxton on the list is just so bizarre.
We're seeing Reeves, Claxton, Looney, but
Mhm.
where's DeRozan?
Yeah.
Where's Porzingis? That's the Wizards' bias, but
Mhm.
De'Aaron Fox, Bam, Jalen
Yeah.
Brunson. I mean, they're all balling.
Yeah. Because like you said, some of the guys that you mentioned, like Brunson, Porzingis, Fox, I mean, they're not even on the list at all. I mean, I could
Exactly.
see, again, I could see some of these guys maybe being on the lower end of the list, but I mean, to not have them on the list at all is just crazy. I mean, and of course, we don't even have to mention, not even the Minnesota guys aren't even there. I
None
mean,
of them.
Bear's not there. Towns isn't there.
Nope.
Edwards, I don't really see on the list. I mean, it's kind of wild.
Hope Austin Reeves gets in.
Yeah, same. We need it.
Fire.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna get in there for sure.
All right. So basically on this podcast, we have a little thing called story time, which is where we kind of talk about our IRL experiences with the NBA, meeting NBA players, all kinds of stuff like that. So on the December 27th, 76ers came trotting into town, Capital One Arena. So I got to see 76ers at Wizards. It was a really good game. I saw Embiid drop 49 points, which was pretty crazy. He and I will say he gets a lot of points at the line.
Yeah, you can say
I was
that
sitting
again.
with my guys and
Mhm.
I was just like, did they really just call that foul? And then he's like, yeah, if you can't guard him, then you have to foul him. I'm just sitting there like, all right, whatever. But it was a good game. Beal left early. I saw him collide with Embiid. I didn't think he got hurt, but I saw him throw the headband, and my friend was like, where's the tech, ref? Just, you know how fans can be. But
Right.
yeah, so Beal left that game early, and it was
Mhm.
a hamstring re-aggravation, and I think the MRI just came back today, so he'll miss some time. But it was a cool game. We weren't our seats weren't that good, nosebleeds pretty much, but
Yeah.
can't hate on them because in person nosebleeds are pretty good. Can't lie. It's just the
Mhm.
issue of walking up all those stairs, but on camera it's really bad. I can understand why people make fun of it, but in person
Yeah.
it's not that bad.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, last month, I mean, when I went to Los Angeles for the week, and I mean, like we saw the Lakers. I mean, it's just kind of wild when you see these games in person, and you
yeah,
see, all the players out there, and you can kind of like watch the teams and how guys interact, and I mean, we also, of course, we didn't just see the Lakers, we also saw like the Clippers and the
yeah,
Timberwolves and the Suns. One thing that I thought was kind of funny was just like with the Timberwolves, it's just kind of just interesting to see how a bunch of the guys on the team just don't seem to have any relations with one another. I mean, you
yeah,
got guys on one side of the bench, guys on the other side of the bench, guys not even talking to each other. I mean, these are things that you don't necessarily see on TV, but when you're actually at the game, sitting towards the front, like towards the floor, I mean, it's just funny to see. So I mean,
yeah,
if you guys can, or anybody that's watching, I mean, if you've ever been to an actual game, or if you haven't been to a game, go see one in person. I mean, it's really an experience.
yeah,
It doesn't, I mean, obviously some arenas, the experiences are going to be more wild than others, but I
for
mean,
sure.
regardless, I mean, it's so much fun
Yeah, and
to
like
see what they do.
yeah, and if you've been to a game, let us know in the comments like what your favorite game was, or if you saw like a crazy moment this season or any season, to be honest. Like, just let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. I think that's all we have for today's episode of Off Ball
Yeah,
Take. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks everybody for
yes,
listening. Have
sir.
a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday for the next episode of Off Ball Takes.
Storm.